For 25 years, they existed in two completely different worlds. One, a Hollywood legend who seemingly vanished after battling his own demons. The other, a child star who ran away from her own fame to become an unrecognizable rock and roll phantom. They were linked by a movie that defined a generation's Christmas, yet they hadn't seen each other since. Then, one night, a single photograph surfaced, and the internet exploded. But what this picture truly represents is far more than a simple reunion. It's the final chapter in a story of on-set torture, a psychotic performance that almost derailed the film, and the dark, hidden struggles that nearly broke its two biggest stars. This isn't the story of how the Grinch stole Christmas. This is the story of what it stole from them. It all went down at the 2025 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Among the sea of rock royalty and music industry titans, two figures came together who couldn't be more different. On one side, Jim Carrey, the 63-year-old comedy icon, looking sharp but with the weight of his intense career in his eyes. On the other, Taylor Momsen, the 32-year-old fiery frontwoman of the Pretty Reckless, dressed in leather and lace, the absolute antithesis of a Christmas movie hero. Photographers swarmed as they posed together, the flashbulbs illuminating a moment a quarter of a century in the making. "We haven't seen each other since the Grinch," Carrey's voice was heard saying, with Momsen adding, 25 years. It was a shocking amount of time. Two people who created such on-screen magic, separated by a gulf of decades. But this was no simple, happy reunion. It was a collision of two vastly different paths that were forged in the bizarre and chaotic world of Whoville. And for one of them, that world was a nightmare she had to escape. While the world fell in love with Cindy Lou Who, the little girl who played her was living through a private hell. Taylor Momsen recently revealed that the role that made her famous also made her a target. She admitted she was teased relentlessly at school. Kids didn't see her as Taylor. They saw her as the buck-toothed Who with the crazy hair. It became a brand she couldn't wash off. Every hallway, every classroom, was a reminder that she wasn't a normal kid. She was a living movie character, and the ridicule was constant. This wasn't just childhood teasing. It was the beginning of a deep-seated desire to break free from the squeaky clean image that was suffocating her. Most child actors fade away, but Taylor Momsen didn't just fade. She staged a rebellion. The sweet face of Cindy Lou Who was a cage, and she was already plotting her escape from Hollywood, a place that celebrated her on screen while her real life was becoming unbearable. And what happened next? No one could have predicted. She didn't just quit acting. She detonated her past. The girl who sang, "Where Are You, Christmas?" transformed into a woman who screams into a microphone for a living. She traded the colorful sets of Whoville for the dark, gritty stages of rock clubs. As the frontwoman for the Pretty Reckless, Taylor Momsen became unrecognizable. With heavy, dark eyeliner, a commanding stage presence, and a voice filled with raw power and angst, she was the polar opposite of the innocent child she once portrayed. It was a conscious decision, a way to reclaim her identity. She said that making music, specifically rock music, was the one thing that felt truly hers. It wasn't a role someone gave her. It was a persona she built from the ashes of her Hollywood childhood. In a world that wanted her to be Cindy Lou forever, she chose to become a rock goddess instead. But while she was fighting to escape the shadow of the Grinch, Jim Carrey was lost inside of it, battling a creative madness that shocked everyone on set. What most people don't know is that when Jim Carrey was on the set of The Grinch, he wasn't really there. Just before filming, he had wrapped another movie, Man on the Moon, where he played the chaotic and unpredictable comedian Andy Kaufman. Carrey's method acting for that role was so intense that he famously never broke character. But the problem was, the character of Andy Kaufman didn't leave when the movie wrapped. It bled into his next project. Director Ron Howard recalled that for a while, Jim Carrey simply didn't exist. Instead, Andy Kaufman showed up to the Grinch set. Carrey himself admitted it, saying, "Andy actually affected the Grinch as well." He would speak to the director and producers as Andy. It became so bizarre that it was described by Carrey as psychotic at times. He was layering one character on top of another. a man pretending to be a comedian who was pretending to be a green monster. This wasn't just acting. It was a psychological experiment spiraling out of control, and it was happening inside a costume that was already a living nightmare. The green fursuit was not just a costume, it was a torture device. The makeup process, designed by the legendary Kazuhiro, took over 3 hours every single day. Carrey was encased in green-dyed yak hair, wearing enlarged, uncomfortable contact lenses that felt like knives in his eyes. The experience was so physically and mentally taxing that on the very first day, he kicked a hole in his trailer wall and told Ron Howard he couldn't do it. He was claustrophobic, miserable, and felt like he was being buried alive. The situation got so desperate that the producers took an extraordinary step. They hired a CIA expert, a man whose job was to train agents on how to endure torture. This specialist spent a weekend teaching Jim Carrey pain resistance and distraction techniques, the same methods used by spies captured in hostile territory. Carrey was instructed to eat constantly to distract himself, to smoke to have something to do, and to get a speaker to blast music to drown out the negative thoughts. He was literally using anti-torture training to survive a children's movie. But the iconic look that caused him so much pain almost never made it to the screen at all. Behind the scenes, a battle was raging over the Grinch's face. The studio executives were getting nervous. Kazuhiro's initial makeup design was so transformative that they felt you couldn't recognize their multi-million-dollar star. They wanted less prosthetics, more Jim Carrey. They actually forced the makeup artist to dial it back, suggesting they just paint Carrey's face green and give him a wig. Hiro knew this would be a disaster. He argued that just being green doesn't make him the Grinch. Carrey himself initially wanted lighter makeup so he could be more expressive, but he soon realized that the full transformation was necessary to find the character. With shooting just days away, and after trying multiple watered-down versions, they finally went back to Hiro's original full prosthetic design. It was a close call that could have turned the iconic Grinch into a cheap-looking parody. It was a victory for artistic integrity, one that was only possible because of a truly bizarre meeting that had happened months earlier. The entire movie hinged on the approval of one person, Audrey Geisel, the widow of Dr. Seuss himself. She was fiercely protective of her late husband's legacy. Director Ron Howard knew he needed her blessing, and he needed her to approve of Jim Carrey. So, Carrey invited Mrs. Geisel to the set to win her over. But in his Kaufman-induced haze, he didn't meet her as Jim. He met her as Andy Kaufman. For a while, he conversed with her entirely in character as the strange comedian. Then, in a flash, he dropped the Kaufman persona and morphed directly into the Grinch, right in front of her. He unleashed the grin, the voice, the whole Grinchy package for a full minute. Instead of being confused or put off, Audrey Geisel was utterly enthralled. She saw the manic, brilliant energy that only Carrey could bring. She told Howard, "I love it, and I want Jim Carrey to play the Grinch." It was that unhinged, character-shifting performance that sealed the deal. And amidst all this high-stakes pressure and psychological chaos, a small 7-year-old girl was forming a quiet, protective bond with the man.